Okay, we are coming out of closed session. We are in recess. We intend to go back to closed session at the conclusion of this meeting. At that point, we'll be able to come back and report any reportable action at that time. So just wanted to keep you up to speed on that. If anyone wishes to address the City Council on any item considered at this meeting before or during the Council's consideration of that item, please enter your name in the electronic kiosk located in the lobby. The City Council will allocate up to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker for each agenda item. Staff reports are available online at the city's website and also at www.cityofreading.gov and also in the public view binder located on the podium at the north side of the chambers. We are going to call this meeting to order. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll rise with me. Councilmember Denuka, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you stay standing, we have our invocation. This is going to be a sure treat. It's with Lynn Fritz from the Native American tradition as a Carrick Tribal descendant, Shasta County Interfaith Forum Chair. And also we have Joey Carroll, Native American flute.
As we stand together, we stand to honor the original people of this land, the First Nations, the Wintu, and we offer this prayer and blessing to Creator, the Great Spirit, to Grandfather Sky and Grandmother Earth, to all the two-legged, the four-legged, the winged creatures, the rocks and minerals, our insect brothers and sisters, to all the plant life, to the life that fills our waterways, and the life-giving energy of water itself. To all of life, we speak this blessing. And as we assemble and gather this day, we speak a blessing to our community leaders, our elected officials who represent us, who work to enhance life, to create health and wellness in our communities. We're families, individuals, all of us, to feel safe, honored, and welcomed. So as we speak this blessing, there's a presence of peace, of creative collaboration, working together to address issues, to solve problems with deep respect. It is in our differences that we learn from one another. And so we honor those differences as part of our teachers. Just as our ancestors are gathered with us here now and our teachers that we carry with us, we honor all those in all of life. We give thanks. And as we speak this prayer and blessing, the energy goes beyond this room, across this community, our state, our nation, the one ocean, to our global community, and into the stars and universes upon universes. To all our relations. Oh, thank you. You may be seated.
All right, thank you very much. Welcome to City Council, our St. Patrick's Day edition today. Hopefully we'll find pot of gold of cash by the end of the meeting, but if not, you should know that my heart feels like gold that you're here with us today. So, all right. Just for procedural things, we are going to move an item. We are going to move item 9.10A under finance. We're going to move that in front of 9.1A before we talk about the Circle 6 consulting for the city of Reading. So we're going to move that one up, okay? We'll start the meeting today with a presentation. Item
call.
Oh, Jack, I think we should figure out who's here, right? So let's,
You don't have
I
to.
mean, I can see you, but we should verbally say it. So let's do our roll call today. Thank you, Councilor Munns. So,
Councilmember Audette,
Here.
Vice Mayor Danuka,
Present.
Councilmember Munns,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bresner,
Present.
and Mayor Lata.
here. All right, that's my one mistake today. That's all I get. Okay. We'll do we have a really neat presentation today, item 2A, a presentation by the Office of District 1 Assembly Member Heather Hadwick honoring our firefighter Stephen Sawyer as the City of Reading Fire Department's 2025 Firefighter of the Year. Pretty special day today. We have our fire chief up here to take us off. So.
There we go. There we go. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, members of council, staff, community members. Jared Van Landingham, I'm the fire chief here, City of Reading. Special night tonight. I have with me Deputy Chief Jay Summerlin with the Reading Fire Department and Mark Mazzano, who's a familiar face and representing Assembly Member Heather Hadwick's office tonight. We're here to recognize Stephen Sawyer as our Firefighter of the Year and Pride and Ownership recipient. And to give you a little bit of just a quick little background about these two awards, the Reading Fire Department these are the two main awards that we give out each year. And they're voted on, nominated by and voted on by their peers. And so Stephen Sawyer has been with us just about 3 years and received both of those awards this year at our award ceremony a couple weeks ago. So we wanted to drag him in front of everybody and celebrate him for a moment. But Stephen, to tell you a little bit about it is that he has jumped in as a new firefighter at the Reading Fire Department, helping us out with technology, some of our mapping stuff, our rostering and callback, things that we've always done on paper. And he's helped us get everything electronic. And so he's been a major help. On the fire ground, his bosses, his captains, his battalion chiefs have had great things to say about him. He's a great tactician. He's a great firefighter, always looking to step in and do the work that needs to get done. So we're really proud of you, Stephen Sawyer. And I want to turn it over to Mark Mazzano and to make this recognition as well.
Oh, I don't need that. It's pretty simple. But when are you going to start the fireman's mustache?
In time.
All right. The assembly member finds out about things like this, and she says that you are deserving. You've been chosen by your peers, and that's certainly an accomplishment. But on behalf of the California Assembly and our assembly member, Heather Hadwick, congratulations, Firefighter of the Year.
Yeah, we'll do a picture? Okay.
We got to get these guys up here. No, don't.
All right, public comment. Pursuant to the Brown Act, City Council cannot take action on any public comment items. The City Council will allocate up to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker for 30 minutes total at the beginning of the meeting for public comment for non-agendized matters within the city's jurisdiction. The mayor will determine the order of the speakers. If 30 minutes is not adequate to accommodate all of the individuals who have submitted their name through the electronic kiosk, the council will trail this item to the end of the open session agenda. The remaining speakers will address the city council at that time. All right. I'm trying to find our speakers. We do. All right, so we have 4 speakers today, I see. We have Tony Trimp, Mark Ewing. We have Tim Bauer from Choose Reading, just says LO. There might be more after that. And we have Cherie, I'm going to butcher that last name. Topiti, or you'll have to correct me when you get up there so I say it right next time. But if all 4 of you could line up there, and we'll start with Tony, if you're here. Take us off.
Hi, Tony Tripp from the Reading Drag Strip. Just wanted to come and offer my support for this, and I appreciate you guys. If there's any questions, I wanted to be here to answer anything that you may have. As far as we're on the close agenda, I couldn't make it earlier. Just got into town about 4:30. Also wanted to offer, this weekend we have our season opener. And for those of you that have not been to the facility, would like you to offer to have you guys come out Saturday or Sunday, get a hold of me, come out and see exactly what we do. So you kind of have, you can see how the routine is out at the racetrack, and would like to sit and speak to you guys about, the different facilities we have out there. So we're open from 9 to 5 o'clock, Saturday, Sunday. Wanted to reach out to you guys and invite you out.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you for being here, Tony. All right, Mark, you are up, so.
All right. I also have handouts. I don't know if y'all take
Sure,
handouts.
you can
or-
hand those right up here.
All right. So good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Mark Ewing, and I'm the lead volunteer with a community organization called Beautify Shasta. We're a volunteer-driven and now officially recognized 501c3 nonprofit. We focus on reducing litter and restoring natural spaces and building community pride across Shasta County. Beautify Shasta started very simply, with a bucket and a grabber and a belief that constant actions add up. And since then, it has grown into an active community effort. Over the past several months, we've organized cleanups throughout the community, and even as small as an organization as we are, the impact is already visible. In just the past few months, our volunteers, including students, families, nonprofits, and local partners, have removed thousands of pounds of litter from streets, creeks, parks, and trail systems. We've helped address illegal dumping sites, supported encampment cleanups, partnered with schools, and worked in areas that often go overlooked. But the impact goes beyond pounds collected. What we're seeing is a shift in mindset. When people come out to a cleanup just once, they begin to see the environment differently. They pick up litter during their daily routines, and they talk to their families about stewardship. That ripple effect is how long-term change happen in a community. We've also been fortunate to build strong community partnerships with local organizations, schools, businesses, and work alongside city staff. And I want to specifically thank your teams at Solid Waste and the Parks Department. With their support, it has made everything that we do when it comes to organizing safe and effective cleanups. And I'm just simply here tonight to share that this work is happening. The community is responding, and now, as an official nonprofit, we're positioned to grow that impact even further. We would welcome continued partnership with the city, whether it's helping share events, supporting logistics, or collaborating on larger scale efforts in the future. Thank you for your time and for the work that you do for the community, and I'd be happy to connect at a later date, or you're welcome to come out to any one of our future cleanups.
Mark, thank you very much for what you're doing, and I'm still going to connect with you to give you a couple names of the people that spoke at the last meeting that we talked about. So they're eager to help clean up
Thank you.
Hartnell with you. Okay, thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. Okay. All right, Tim. Tim, you're here. You're up next.
Good evening. My name is Tim Bauer. I work with Jennifer at Choose Reading Lodging. We represent the hotels. And I'm here to talk about some updates with the Ironman 70.3 Northern California happening in August. So I'm going to start from just some basic logistics. Race week, that's what we call it. The event is on August 16th, Sunday, but technically we will have people coming in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The staff will arrive on Monday. That's a staff of the Ironman team, about 75 of their people will be flying in. So race week starts pretty much on the 12th. So just a breakdown of that. Wednesday, Thursday, athlete registration starts opening up. So we'll have an influx of people in the area. Friday, we're planning a downtown Reading welcome reception. And Saturday, there's going to be a practice swim at Oak Bottom and a potential morning yoga on the Sundial Bridge, which we're excited about. And then Sunday will be race day. So that's kind of a general overview of race week. Some good news, we're officially 5 months away from race week as of today. And we have over 1,200 athletes registered from around the world. I just got an update today. We have 37 states represented that'll be flying in. And we also have 11 countries that will be flying in to Redding, California. One of the big things with triathlons is the number of tri clubs they draw, because outside of race week, they will be here weeks and months ahead to literally beat the course before anyone else can. So we have over 200 tri clubs signed up as of today, and we still have 5 months left. Our cutoff, all right, our cutoff is 2,500 people, so we're pretty much halfway there from having a maxed out full capacity race. Just some updates from our end. For visibility, we will be passing out over 1,000 volunteer posters at local businesses. So there's awareness. We'll be doing that at the end of the month. And we'll be utilizing all the 122 street lamp banners about 60 days before the race. So a lot of Ironman branding will be visible in the community months before the race is even close. Good news, we're distributing 4,000 cooling towels to all athletes and volunteers. And we get to start the race early, around 5:52 civil sunrise. And most people should be done with the race about starting at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So that's probably the best news you'll ever hear. And there is an eight and a half hour cutoff. So Mike, you can do it. So if you guys need anything, choosereading.com/Ironman for the most updates. Tim@choosereading.com for email. Thank you.
I am training, just for the record.
Actually, I make a motion to make sure that the mayor runs the race.
Absolutely.
I am running it. I am sure running it. I don't know if I'll survive it. You may need a new mayor after the race.
I'm looking out.
But
I'm next in line.
I will wear the mayor's hat and everything, so I cannot wait. So, okay. Thank you. Good stuff. All right. Next one, Cherie, or I may have butchered your name, so please correct me if I got that wrong. So first and last name. So.
That's okay. My name is Cherie Topetti, and my maiden name wasn't any better, so I'm used to it. It's all right.
Well, if it wasn't Lata, then you're okay. So, yeah.
So my name is Cherie Topetti. I was born and raised in Redding. I work for the state of California, and me and my husband are local business owners here in town. We're raising a family, and so we're invested in seeing Redding be successful and healthy. So I'm here today to express my support for expanding our opportunities for local medical care, including a school, making our area attractive for physicians. And I won't speak on it today, but that includes a mental health facility. Like many in our community, I've been directly impacted by the shortage of doctors. My daughter here has special health needs, and we're really used to traveling for specialists, but we're getting to that point for primary care as well. Finding a primary care physician is extremely difficult, and even if you do have one, appointments are often booked out for months and sometimes close to a year. you're lucky to get your wellness visit in. It's nearly impossible to get a same-day appointment, and for several years now, telehealth has been my family's only option for actual illness. And even then, you can't really diagnose everything virtually. It's really difficult. Urgent care centers, which should help fill that gap, are frequently overwhelmed as well, and a lot of times unable to accommodate walk-in patients. Some even refuse to see sick patients and focus on things like sport physicals because any symptom could be COVID. We were referred to the ER for a sore throat. And PTPs, primary care, are moving to concierge services. We were on a waiting list for local doctors because I pay for insurance. I can't pay $200 a month in a membership per patient for my family of 4. It's just not possible. And it's not just an inconvenience, it's a growing access to care issue that affects our entire community. So supporting a local medical school is meaningful long-term solution. Physicians train in a community and they're more likely to stay and practice there. So by investing in medical education locally, we create a stronger pipeline for providers who understand our community and are committed to serving here. We have an opportunity to make our area more attractive to future physicians by supporting education, training, and a healthcare environment where they can succeed and serve. Some studies show that up to 70% of graduates will remain in the same general area long term, and our community depends on having access to medical care. So, thank you for your time. She was going to say Happy St. Patrick's Day.
All right, thank you to all our speakers that came today. Much appreciated. Always great to hear from you. Moving on to our consent calendar. The consent calendar contains items considered routine and/or which have been individually scrutinized by city council members and are anticipated to require no further deliberation. If a member of the public wishes to address an item on the consent calendar, please enter your name in the electronic kiosk located in the lobby before the consent calendar is considered. It shall be the prerogative of any council member before the consent calendar is acted upon to 1, comment on an item, 2, respond to any public comment on an item, 3, request the record reflect an abstention or nay vote on any item, or 4, remove an item and place it on the regular portion of the agenda for delivery of a staff report and or an extended discussion or deliberation. Councilmember Adet, I see you would like to speak. I did not hear that in the microphone, so I don't know if they heard that either. But
Forgive me. I'd like to pull 4.9A.
4.9A. And would you like to pull that for a presentation letter or for questions right now, or?
Well, I have a clarifying question, and then I just wanted to make sure if it's a budget item, that the city manager is the arbiter of where the budget's going, not what's stated. We didn't actually, is our police chief here?
He's definitely here. I saw him. Who? Chief Barner, are you here? He is here.
Is this the same grant that we did 2 weeks ago, or is this a different one? It's a different one, okay. So we didn't approve it before they submitted it. They approved it and then it's coming back, so we didn't see it beforehand. So I just want to make sure it states some places of some intent of where to spend it, but because we're going through budget stuff, I'd like the city manager to be not what's stated in the staff report, but what the city manager approves as far as a budget. Because it has to be in categories, but how that works, I think that the city manager should be determining that.
Okay.
Do you want to?
So I mean, that would, if you want to change that, we don't have to bring it back.
It says authorize as designee to execute the contract, and then it also says to administratively appropriate the grant funds.
But, so what I'm trying to avoid is that the council, because the staff report is specific, then it's as though the council approved that specific allocation, as opposed to we're giving the authority to the city manager to appropriate it.
Who has the authority now, Brian?
No.
The council does. And so because if we say yes as written, it's what's in there because we have the authority.
See, that's what she's saying is, like, specifies where the money goes.
I know, I'm saying that
So
item
like,
three
let's
says
just say that, let's
authorize.
say the city manager goes, okay, I want you to get 1 car, but we're gonna use more for this other piece, that the city manager would determine that as a budget, not what's written in here.
Well, I understand, but doesn't number 3 cover that?
No. because
Maybe I could ask for
because the staff
clarification
report
from
is too
city.
specific, so now it would be the will of the council because we approved it as written.
Counselor Resner, you were saying something, but maybe so we can all hear you.
I was going to request that maybe we could have some advice from city attorney on how we could change items 1 through 3 so that it matched that, because I believe the council's in support of what Councilmember Audette is
Yeah,
saying.
if I might suggest, give me a minute while you vote on the rest of the items, and then when we come to this item on the regular calendar, I'll see if I can
Sounds
come up with some language to capture that.
Okay. So that item is pulled. Does that become 9.9A? Is that right?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll make a motion to approve rest of the items on it.
Okay, I have to pull though, on the minutes, the February 3rd budget and the regular meeting that's agendized. Those are not to be considered tonight. They'll come back April 7th.
That's correct. And what items are those? Those are,
That is the February, for item 4.1, let me get back to it here.
It's 4A.
Oh, sorry, 4A.
4A?
And
Okay.
it's the special meeting, budget prioritization and modification session and closed session of February 3rd and the regular meeting of February 3rd, 2026.
And that's just pulled, and that will come back to a future meeting, correct? Okay, thank you. All right. So we do have a motion. I don't know if I heard a second.
I will second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Look at that. We can get things done. All right. Okay, we did have item 6.1, our agenda, but that was pulled by staff. So I think we're able to bypass that. That was 6.1 for the electric utility. So we're moving along. We have to our regular calendar items. 9A, consider a letter of support for Northern California Medical Sciences School in the city of Redding. Did see one speaker earlier on that. Let me see if I can get to there. And so maybe we'll go with the speaker first. We have Thomas Perry. Yeah. All right. Come on down.
No, I'm not seeing any limits. This guy's probably delivered like one ton of children.
Oh, really?
Good evening, and let me
Been inside.
thank you, the council members, for allowing me to speak, along speaking to what this nice lady was just talking about, as far as the needs for medical school. Sure. For the need for a new medical school in our area. I am Dr. Thomas Perry. I've been practicing here since 1981, when our hospitals were young, and they were having to transfer patients that were cardiac patients, neurological patients, pediatric and OB patients out of the area to UC Davis because of lack of facilities. As the years have gone on, we now have some state-of-the-art hospitals managing high-risk pregnancy patients, cardiac patients, surgical, and we're a level 1 trauma center. All that to be said is that at this point, as you know, if you go to the emergency room, you're going to be spending quite a long time in there to see a doctor or anybody. Let alone if you need to be admitted, you might be spending the night in the emergency room for upwards 24 to 30 hours before you can find a bed. So this is a crisis that's happening throughout the country. However, the issue that we need to speak to is that we need to be forward-thinking. Now, in the time I practiced here, each hospital has had forward-thinking in trying to improve their services. And here we are in 2026 with what we have. The problem is that there's burnout for physicians. There's physicians that are retiring and not coming back. I retired once, was asked to come back to work at one of the local clinics in my specialty, which I've been doing right now for the last 7 years. So I think that bringing a medical school to the area will increase our pride as a city. And also a graduate school will help bring the elevation, will elevate the playing field for high schools, colleges, junior highs. I decided to become a doctor when I was in 8th grade. So if we could focus on what the medical school will be doing to increase industry, increase finances, and to grow our schools and our hospitals. Our hospitals will need to grow. Our staff will need to grow. Our physicians will need to grow. We can do that with a medical school, and that's the fastest way to do it. So thank you for your attention and your time.
All right. Hey, thank you very much for speaking. So, yeah. So this item was brought to me by Dr. Hall at Simpson. He's asked us to consider a letter of support. I was really encouraged to see Simpson involved. I know Simpson's got big dreams and visions for the future and expanding programs and just doing more to help support the community. And it's not, again, if they're successful in creating a medical school with the group, of course, it doesn't take away from anything from what other people are already doing. I think it just adds more value. It just, it's like adding another business in town. So, we can certainly support any kind of assistance in the community to be able to attract more doctors, train more doctors. It's great for the economy, and I'm sure people can speak about the economic benefit when we do something great like that. But Dr. Hall, I see you're here. Would you like to say anything to us? Or I know I asked you earlier, I felt like you say something really profound, and you're a smarter guy than me at times. So, well, many times, but.
Thank you for the invitation. I'll be brief. Yes, this is a tremendous community, and we know if any of you have a family, how difficult it is to get a doctor. The data shows very, very clearly that we're in crisis, as Dr. Moo has stated publicly on behalf of the county. Simpson University has endeavored to be both faithful to its roots, and also Simpson University is endeavoring with haste to be everything that it can be to fulfill our commitment to being Reading's hometown university. In recent years, we've grown our nursing program. As you know, it's ranked presently ranked number 3 in California out of 140. We've been approved federally for dollars to launch a family nurse practitioner program. We're writing curriculum for PsyD, Doctor of Psychology, and it only makes sense, as Dr. Danuka brought to my attention some time ago, that we endeavor to build a medical school that not only provides doctors, and as we found by studying resource Pikeville University in Kentucky is far more rural than we are. And a lot of people would like to say, oh, we can't do this. Well, the fact of the matter is that they're 2 hours from an interstate, and they graduate 150 doctors every year. Of those 150, in residency, 72% serve in what they call the Greater Appalachian Radius. Let's imagine 100 miles in all directions around us. And then when they graduate, 40% plant in the rural Appalachian Radius. We've spent 2 days with them in addition to other significant study. We're confident that we can do it. We have plans to raise the funds. And I think it not only impacts our access to doctors, the likelihood of increased resources, increased opportunity for ophthalmology schools, for example, or dental schools. It has a virtual guarantee in a 10-year period of generating about $700 million in revenues. So it's a landscape change. It's a sea change. It's one of the most impacting things that we could do. And it would be our great pleasure at Simpson University to serve our community in this way, to leave some legacy, to make some impact. There are children in our community right now in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. Those are our solution. Those kids can be in our medical school in just a few years. I'm confident we can get it spooled up. If we pray and pull for one another, brighter days are certainly ahead. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I don't see any other council members up, but I'll make a motion to approve the letter of support since I helped bring that item here, so.
I'll second.
Okay.
Before we take a vote, I just want to make sure, I don't see any harm or any negative in supporting. I don't think that any member of council probably would say that we don't have a need for medical access. I just want to make sure that we're being really clear that this is a letter of that we support the cause. but that we're not agreeing to any sort of budgetary support. I think that we all understand that. I just want to make sure that we're all being very clear with the public that this is our support of the cause.
Actually, we're hoping that they would contribute to.
Actually, they
budget,
will
actually,
because,
yeah, so.
because I think there are studies, Dr. Hall quoted, but Florida State University, when they built a medical school in first decade of 2020, 2000 to 2010, their impact was $1 billion. And the second decade, their impact was $1.7 billion. B as in boy.
Yep,
billion
can't wait
dollar.
for numbers.
So
that start
it definitely is a very impactful economic, more support for our services.
I'm hearing
Can
get to
I-
work quick. It's going to help solve some of our finance things here in the city, right? So, yes.
Can I just ask a question to Dr. Danuka? I know that you guys had recently taken a trip, so are we closer on this?
So.
Maybe some highlights?
Yeah, if you allow me to give a quick recap, I think 5 of us went to Pikeville, Kentucky, which is a rural town, which Dr. Hall mentioned, 7,000 population in the deep Appalachia, and that's what he was talking about. So this is a long process. Usually medical school building from scratch takes anywhere between 5 to 7 years. Even if an existing university wanted to build a different campus here, even they will take the similar amount of time, because the accreditation process takes a long time. So what we are trying to do is make sure that things are done as fast as possible, but actually correctly. So we build not just a school just because we want it. We want to make sure that we become a destination for the nation and an inspiration for our next generation. We want to make it right so people want to come here. So this will transform not just Reading, but our county as well as all the surrounding counties around us. If you see, there is no medical school between Sacramento and Portland region. This will be the first one. So this is going to be transformational. And we have now received pretty much a unanimous support from pretty much every quarter now.
Sounds great.
This is going to happen faster than the football program started. And this is probably going to have a little bit more winning record too. So, but we're getting better, aren't we? So,
Wow.
Rude.
no, I'm just. But,
Them's fighting words.
I know. All right. Well, good. We do have. I meant that in all good fun, and I do love the football
Fighting
games and the
Irish
team
Day.
itself. We do have a motion, a second. I don't see any other comments, so let's take a vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? No. All right. That passes.
You're on a roll.
It's St. Patrick's, so I mean, it's just good vibes, good moods so far, and we'll see how the rest goes. But we did move our 9.10A, so technically we did pull consent calendar. That doesn't have to go in front of that. We can just pull that consent item later then. Okay, so we'll go to 9.10A, consider accepting the City of Reading mid-year budget review and adoption of the associated resolution. Greg, you're here, so, all right.
Waiting on my presentation to come up, but Mayor, Council, good evening. Greg Robinette, Director of Finance and City Treasurer, and honored to be here tonight. I don't think I'll say happy because of the current state of the budget, but honored to be here to present our mid-year and our general fund quarterly update through December 31st. It doesn't want to, it like vibrated. Sorry. Oh, there it goes. I don't know if I'm going to trust it. Did you just move it? Okay. So you want me to tell you when to move it? Okay. So this first slide shows kind of the history of the general fund cash balance from the actual on June 30th, 2025. I always talk about this V pattern of cash, if you will, where the general fund is utilizing reserves very heavily through the first 6 months of the year and then rebuilds reserves through the spring months into the end of the year. The one point here is in the attached recommendation is a $2 million beginning cash adjustment from $9 million to $7 million as the beginning cash. And then I I also want to highlight the fact that after receipt of the property tax, we're almost back up to zero there at the end of January. Through May, we still may be burning some cash until we receive the next installment of property tax, and then projecting to end cash at around 8.3%, which would be below the council's policy of 10%. Shar, you want to go ahead and do the next slide? Cash, okay, thank you. Shar, do you want to give me the next slide? Okay, so this slide is a high-level overview of our budget to actual. The graphs on the left, the set of graphs on the left are our revenues. And so in a perfect world, you would have revenues perfectly projected and or slightly above your projection. As you can see here, we're $2.5 million under projections. The coming slides will talk about why that is. And importantly, I'll get to it, but the tax is updated to reflect the amounts that were approved by council on February 3rd at the budget workshop. And then the expense side, we're about $494,000 over budget. Again, we would prefer to see that under. I will get into the details of why, but it's important to know that that's simply a cash flow projection. So it's taking our budget and dividing by 12 and multiplying by half the year, so multiplying by 6 to get you to kind of a forecast or a pace at which you would expect to spend budget. So we're slightly over that pace. And I'll get into the details of why on the coming slides. Okay, so this slide talks about the revenue budget to actuals details. And as I stated on the previous slide, we've updated the tax projections to reflect council's direction given on February 3rd of this year at the budget workshop. And so sales tax through December, the next slide we'll kind of zoom in and talk about through December and through February, is slightly below the projection that was updated. And then you can see there property tax, although it's not a major revenue through December, slightly below. Transient occupancy tax is slightly above. Cannabis tax is a little below, and other taxes is slightly below as well. The two big ones there that stand out are revenue from other governments, and that one is actually above forecast. In the resolution before council this evening, there's a recommendation to recognize the $3.25 million from Reading Rancheria for the agreement that was entered into. And that would actually, once that is recognized, bring that more, so we're slightly below the forecast. I always point out to council that the revenue from other governments is pretty volatile because it has to do with grant billings. When are we billing it? When are we receiving it? When are we performing the work? And so it can look wildly above or below depending on where we stand at any point in that. But without the revenue from Reading Rancheria, we'd be pretty on track given the forecast. And then internal departments and transfers, this is mostly the result of transfers, timing of the transfers, specifically around gas tax. As we complete certain work, those transfers will happen as the expenditures actually happen on the gas tax front in the streets department. And so the amount that we're trailing there is just because we haven't incurred allowable expenses and or completed the administrative work to transfer the money fully. Shar, you want to go to the next one? Okay, so as I said here, we're going to zoom in a little more on taxes and talk about through February, given that this presentation is a little later, we have some more data points here. And so sales tax is actually above the forecast by about $350,000. Property tax now through February is a much more substantive revenue as we've received approximately a little over 16 million. It's $138,000 over forecast. And then transient occupancy tax is about $120,000 over forecast. And other taxes and cannabis continue to kind of trail below forecast. But all told, through December, we were about $500,000 below the updated forecast. Through February, about $127,000 above the forecast in total. Sorry, you want to go to the next one? Okay, so this slide I always think is important because it allows us to look at our historical kind of tax revenues through the month that we're presenting in. And so you can see there, sales tax continues to decline year over year. This is the third consecutive year where it's actually going down through December. Through February, that trend somewhat corrected itself and it's about flat, I believe now. Property tax, you can see there, as I mentioned, is not a substantial revenue through December, but as soon as January hits, it becomes a very substantial revenue. Basically, overnight becomes $16 million in line with the sales tax there. But it was pretty much flat or slightly increasing there year over year. Through January, it did increase by close to 4%. And so that was good news because our assumption was 3%. Transient occupancy taxes, you can see there, continues to grow, and the other two revenue sources there continue to be largely flat. Gotcha. Okay, so I kind of wanted to walk through council with this. I think it's an important slide before we get to the actual 10-year plan slide that shows the updates to the 10-year plan. And so this basically bakes into one slide the discussion that council had on February 3rd. And so bear with me while I read some numbers off of my page here. But so we made adjustments to sales tax, which was basically recognizing the actual amount for FY 2025. And then we recognized a 2% decrease from FY 25 to FY 26 as directed by council on February 3rd. And then we lowered the long-term assumption from 2.5% to 1.5% thereafter. And so what that meant was we lowered our sales tax revenue assumption by $1.7 million in year one, and then by the last year of the 10-year plan there, it's about $5.1 million. And so that would be every year it's growing to the point where we no longer have $5.1 million there in year 10. This is important because that's the blue line there, or the blue bars, and it is the primary driving force behind that blue line, which is basically reductions to our revenues, which total about $6.5 million by the last year of the 10-year plan. And I'll really quickly go over what we did with property tax. So with property tax, council wanted to recognize the actual amount for fiscal year 25 and then use the same adopted budget amount of 3% thereafter, which meant we recognized about $81,000 of revenue, growing to about $100,000 by the end of the 10-year plan. That's that little dark blue line that you see, or dark blue bars that you see above the line there. And then the green bar is a transient occupancy tax. Council decided to recognize the fiscal year 25 actual, reduce fiscal year 26 growth amount from 4% to 2%, and then reduce the long-term growth amount from 4% to 3.5%. And so that ultimately meant that we were reducing revenues by $236,000 in year one and growing to almost $780,000 by the final year of the 10-year plan. And then cannabis and other, I won't try to articulate the entire conversation. Those that are interested, I would encourage you to go listen to the meeting on February 3rd. But ultimately, it reduced revenues by $424,000 in the first year, growing to about $686,000 by the last year. And that's the pink bar there. That's cannabis and other taxes. Sure, you want to go to the next slide? Thank you. Okay, so on the expenditure side, budget to actual details. Again, above the line is savings. Below the line means through 6 months, we are overspending at the pace of 6 months of the budget. Police, largely the result of some ATs that are in process and the transition from new city managers. There's been some delays on some of our appropriation transfers where some of them are recognizing revenues and or rolling stock or equipment replacement. And then also police had some retirements in the early part of the year. And so it takes some time for cost savings to catch up to those retirements as you have vacant positions. And so there's also a timing issue with a SHASCOM payment of about $500,000. The way our new system recognizes that, we no longer do carryovers. And so when you actually look at the actual expenditure paid versus the budget, it looks higher because it's not recognizing that there was a reduction to the actual encumbrance from the prior year. And so it's kind of a technical thing with our new system. But it does make it appear by about $500,000 to be overspending, when in reality, if you looked at it, including the encumbrance changes, that would normalize a little bit. And then on the fire side, they have about $900,000 in mutual aid reimbursements that we don't recognize until the end of the year once we know the actual need for their budget impact. So that will offset any overages and overtime. And then they also have some ATs in process. And then just generally, I always point this out, but the timing of their overtime, these graphs are basically equalizing 6 months. And in the case of fire, their overtime is heavier in the early part of the year because July, August, September, October are our fire season. And so we're hoping some of that will normalize by the end of the year and they won't be over budget by the end of the year. But I do want to point out some global measures. It was mentioned in the staff report that the new city manager has enacted. That includes an expenditure freeze for anything that isn't mission critical, overtime freeze, and a hiring freeze. And so those items we're hoping will also help to save money as we go towards the end of the year here. Okay, so as I kind of alluded to, the updated 10-year plan, and so the lighter blue line would have been what was adopted by council in June. And after all the adjustments, so this includes any resolutions council has approved year to date, not many have been approved. The resolution included in this packet, which does reduce revenues, is the primary thing it does, that causes this significant decrease in cash. The blue line becomes the updated 10-year plan. This is with no changes to expenditures. And I'm sure now that we have the new city manager here, he's going to be moving some items forward to council, such as item 9.1A, to hopefully start to address this structural issue within our budget that's driving cash that starts below 10% and if we continued on this trajectory, we would be below zero, which would be effectively insolvent by year 3 of the budget. And so we're going to start working vehemently with the city manager to address these issues. Okay, so not real quick, but quickly I'll kind of run through the budget requests included in the staff report. So first up is the general fund. There's an animal regulation for $41,500 in each fiscal year. This is the result of a contract that was executed after the completion of the budget. And so there was increases in that contract that need to be recognized by council today. $31,720 for the recruitment of our new city manager, and then $260,880 related to Measure A. Throughout the general fund, I'll just pause real quick because I'll get to it in a few slides. There are other increases that are a result of increases associated to internal service funds that have to be reallocated because they do not have adequate reserves to cover those expenditures. And so we'll get into those. But the other general fund departments you see are a result of those reallocations from internal service funds that we'll talk about in a couple slides. Next up is the Reading Electric Utility, let me start all of our enterprise funds, starting with Reading Electric Utility. REU has reduced officially 9 positions in the budget that are recognized here in fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27. There are also some increases, as I mentioned on the previous slide, to fixed charges that offset some of these savings. Wastewater had a position in budget that should have been placed in storm drains. So there's a reduction to wastewater's budget and an increase to storm drains budget. In the case of storm drain and solid waste, solid waste had 8 positions this happened with, and storm drain had 1 position. We checked our entire budget. So the positions were in the budget. As you work through personnel costing in our old system and our new system, there's a process where you kind of build the costing, I would call it in a personnel costing environment, and you push those costs through in total to the actual, what we call line item budgets. And so you put them in the actual areas that the costs are budgeted to. We're not sure why, brand new system, new problems, but for some reason, these 9 positions, it did not move those costs over to the actual budget line item environment. And so this resolution here is recognizing those costs that were not moved. We checked our entire budget. We know that these had to do with vacant positions that we had to add into the budget. So we checked for any position that we added like that, which was almost 100 positions that were vacant at the time of budget. And these were the only 9 that this occurred with. And so we believe this cleans everything up. That may have been an error. This did not happen with the general fund, which I was relieved about because that would be highly concerning for me. But there are 2 of those instances here in storm drain and solid waste. Next up is, apologize for the size of that font. We should have increased it. But next up is our internal service funds. And so our public relations, marketing, communications team needs to make updates to our city website for ADA compliance requirements for $21,000. Fleet has overages of vehicle repair and maintenance costs of $450,000, and then employer services has $72,000 for pre-employment services and $330,000 of labor relation costs. All of that had to be reallocated, and the next slide gives you a brief overview of how each of those allocations impact our various departments. And with that, I'm available for any questions that council may have at this time.
Oh, we got one. I knew we'd get one. So, Councilmember, and not picking on you, I'm sure, I know. Councilmember Audette, so.
Okay. All right. Before I ask my questions, can you go back to that first slide? This one? This is the very first slide. That one. Can you, in the 10-year, it ends at, I think it said 9.2%, but this says
Yeah.
8.3. So do you have numbers for these? So for like,
I'm sorry, I think I made a mistake and I didn't update that 8.3. It should be 9.2.
higher, look at this.
Higher,
We're off to a
yes.
really good start.
9.9 million
We're
is
at
the
9.9
amount.
million.
Yes.
Okay, so, and that's 9.2%.
Yes.
Okay, look at that. I'm already giving you money.
Don't leave any credit that you deserve.
9.2, don't get ahead of it. Don't
It's like
get ahead of it.
Monopoly
Okay,
card, bank it
but-
in your favor.
Okay, so I know that this second bar was 3.3 million. That was Q1. Q2 is what amount?
Negative.
Can you ask that question one more time?
You want to?
Yes,
Well, yeah.
the third bar.
Third bar, she said.
So
So,
It was negative 10.9.
it was negative 11.4.
11.4, okay.
Was it 11.4? Is it, the proof of cash will be the first number? Is
Yeah,
that
it's the
right
first number off of that,
It's first
yeah.
number, okay.
The-
So on the proof of cash for the fourth bar, it would be negative 836,000
Yes,
then.
it's
Okay.
directly off the proof of cash that was presented
So
to
up
council
to,
tonight.
to basically the end of January, our reserves are still negative, but they're better negative. They're negative 836,000?
Yeah, and actually, since the publication of that report, we did find a journal entry that could be entered for about 830,000, actually, a little more than
More?
that. So yes, we would.
So we're gonna be
more-
like
Yeah, it would be basically
even?
zero
Would be
through
zero?
January,
Okay,
yes.
that's also okay, I like that. That's better. Okay,
It does give me an opportunity to highlight something about these reports. These reports are, done at a point in time, and they're only as good as the work that's been completed through that time frame. And so sometimes actually going through these reports, you find, oh, hey, we missed that entry or this entry, and you actually are able to make those entries as you go through actually creation of these reports. And so I just kind of wanted to add that for council's
sure.
benefit.
Okay, so I have clarity questions, and then I have suggestions of things that I'd like to see. So in this report, in any of my quarterly reports, what I'm tracking is my 10-year type elements. And then if you're asking for appropriations in Q2 and Q4, I'm looking for information in my staff report about what you're asking for. But I need to have that where we are on the reserves. So it just so happens that this report did not include that negative 11.4 million in the general fund reserve section. So if that can always be in there, that would be great. I know it's a point in time, but it is a measurement to track how we're doing. So I'd like to see that. This is good, but it's not as specific as I'd like to see. Also, point of clarification, when we're looking at these, you went retroactively back to the beginning or just to the second quarter for these numbers? Like, because I know we changed the assumption.
You're talking about for the revenue assumptions?
Yeah.
I went retroactively for the whole year.
For the
and
whole year.
And updated them, yes.
Okay, so when we're
Because
looking at,
it's easier to look at if you actually update the projections and not to distract from what you're asking. But I also think it's important to remind council, when we make those, we do cash flow assumptions and we base it on the last 5 years, right? So sales tax has kind of this kind of ebbs and flows throughout the year, right? And so we try to bake that into those assumptions. And so when we're presenting here this evening, it's based on those ebbs and flows. The largest example, of course, of this kind of ebb and flow that's way more than an ebb and flow is property tax, where basically we know we receive approximately $1 million through the first 6 months, and then we get 15 to 16 million in January, and then off into May and June, we get the rest of it. And it's
Yeah.
about a $30 million revenue.
yeah. Okay, so if included in this, we are always getting what our unencumbered or unassigned or, our basically our general fund, our 10-year plan reserve number is, up and until, if that's always stated, that would be great. So that we know what the result is at that point. And then, and so it's memorialized all the way till the end. I just wanted to make sure, so when I'm looking at this, we're up to date as far as with the new assumptions, so I can see its performance. That's what I'm looking for. And then the $2 million, that was great to be in the report, so I can memorialize that in that decision. And then, okay, so these requests for funding. What exactly is a fixed charged fleet maintenance? Is that fuel, or what exactly is that?
No, so what fixed charge fleet maintenance is they do all the maintenance for the entire city fleet. And so that includes oil, oil filters, parts on cars that might be breaking, frankly, purchasing the inventory so that they have those parts available so that they can quickly replace those parts as necessary. And so it's anything you can imagine with the exception of fuel that may need to be used on any of our city vehicles to repair them.
So there's many of these charges in this resolution. Am I to understand that we fixed the beginning cash, we fixed the revenues, is this a fix of expenditures that don't line up to the budget as passed? Because there's a lot of them, so I'm confused as to why all of a sudden there are dozens and dozens and dozens of fixed charge.
Yeah, so what happens, when Fleet goes through and analyzes their budget, for the purposes of making a request such as the one presented to council this evening, and they say, hey, we think we're gonna be $450,000 over by the end of the year, and then then the next step is finance looks and says, how much does Fleet have in their reserves? Can they cover that expenditure with their reserves? The internal service fund that we call Fleet has their own set of reserves. They do not have $450,000 of reserves. And so any amount that they cannot cover out of their reserves, we have to do what we call a reallocation to all the users of that internal service fund. And so then we go through the allocation methodology, find everybody's percentages, and then we reallocate based on their percentages or their share of those costs.
So are we saying that we just didn't budget enough for those things?
For Fleet, yes.
So when we said we were cutting budgets, we cut them too much and we had to put more budget back into these?
I would defer to Director Webb to answer the specifics of what's going on with the Fleet budget.
Good evening. Assistant City Manager Webb, can you please repeat the question?
There's just, I don't even know.
Did we budget too little for
There's
fleet?
50 or 60 of these fleet charge employer services and fleet charge fleet maintenance, these fixed charges, and I'm just wondering, did we just not budget enough for these things? Or how did we get all of these, what are these charges? It's one thing if you say, oh, well, overtime, we're appropriating overtime, but this looks like quite a bit of budget. Was it cut too far and we're not able to do it, or how did we get here?
So those are great questions. Going through the budget process, gosh, maybe 18 months ago, I would say, round about there. Obviously, at that time, the then City Manager Tippin and the directorship were looking at ways to control costs as much as possible. Fleet, just like all of the other departments, either internal service fund or other, looked at ways to control costs. The original, and I would have to dig through my notes to find them, but the original Fleet requested budget, my understanding is, was in line with this request here. Obviously, Fleet has information on the inventory, right, of the fleet that the city owns and operates, and I'll remind council that this is everything from Chief Van Landingham's fire engines, ladder trucks, to Chief Barner's police vehicles, to Director Zettel's equipment. I mean, we're talking 1,000+ vehicles that we perform both the routine maintenance on as well as preventative maintenance, 90-day inspections for vertical element or vertical pieces of equipment, as well as the state and federal inspections for the heavy stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the fleet department. And as Director Robinette explained, essentially, we just do not have the budget at this time to continue to make the repairs and the preventative maintenance to the equipment that we have. Therefore, that is why the request is here.
So am I to understand the budget, we didn't give enough budget to this, and now we're fixing that?
That's correct. And I would
Okay.
say that it was a risk that we took in preparing the budget, and we were hopeful that obviously escalations would maybe simmer down, for lack of a better term. And unfortunately, we're not seeing that. And we are going to continue to do everything we
I only have one
can within the fleet department to control costs, but unfortunately, these are the realities of the times that we're in.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Was the UAL increases added to the second, third, fourth,
Absolutely.
fifth,
Yeah,
sixth
I
years?
missed that. I appreciate you pointing that out. And so it's important to know that in year 2, we'll probably bring a resolution to council at the appropriate time for that, because you'll have the prepayment, which will offset some of it. So I want to make sure we're bringing the actual amount that we need for year 2.
Sure.
But the amount was placed in correcting the budget in all years 3 through 10, effectively. So yes, but I want to do a full analysis on year 2, including any budget modifications that are done prior to, us paying that bill.
Okay, so 3 on.
3 on,
It
it's
looked
in
like
there.
it in,
Yeah.
okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yep.
So next year could be a little bit worse.
Slightly worse,
Slightly
yeah.
worse. About, do you know if it was like $1 million or?
I think it
or
was
over?
like 800,000 to the general fund, if I remember right. But I think the prepayment will save some of that.
Some of that. Okay,
Yes.
and then I think my last one. So when I'm calculating, I'm looking at your graph that has the line, which we're gonna talk about
This one?
graphs another time. Oh, yeah, this one, I have nothing good to say about it. It's also confusing because we have positive numbers after the first year for most of these. It's just that this is taking it off what we had adjusted, like the budget to.
Yes.
It's not like,
yeah,
we
so
don't
this
expect
graph-
sales tax to do that. It's just for what we assumed.
It's important to say this is the update
Yeah,
from the adjustments that were discussed on February 3rd
Yes.
with council. So
Yeah.
basically, it's baseline, the line is the original adopted budget.
Yes.
And saying, hey, we lowered it from that, which then means
it's lower.
the line is going to lower our available resources within the general fund by year by the line.
Yes,
basically,
but
net
for the
impact.
public's consumption, we anticipate sales tax to go up, even though it
Yes.
doesn't look like that there. All right, so this one,
Mm-hmm.
I want some clarity, because I'm not sure if I'm computing it properly, just so that I understand. So when I look at the 10-year, and I'm trying to figure out what is our deficit in the let's just do the front page of the 6-year. So if the deficit this year is going to be about a little under $1 million, next year it's going to be 3. It's not, at 2 years, it's not 3.9. It rounds to the next number. We're not adding. So next year, the deficit's going to be 3 million. The following year, it'll be negative 7.6
So
million.
I think this is an important thing.
Yeah.
And we can change the presentation if council as a body wishes, because we've done this before, and I see Councilmember Resner shaking her head yes. But what we did before is we computed that number for council's benefit, and we added a line.
There's a line.
That
Yes.
said revenue increases or expenditure cuts needed to balance the 10-year plan.
Yes.
And I offer that because it would make council's idea of the target maybe a little easier to quantify in their head, because let's say you save 3 million in year 1, well, that gives you a higher starting balance
Yeah,
for
right.
year 2 that you would then have, and it would reduce the need for a cut in year 2.
Yes.
So that's where that's helpful for, potentially for council, if they so wish, to change the presentation potentially and bring back that line that we had at one time.
I would love the 10-year to be the previous 10-year that we used prior to 2022. And it does have that line at the bottom. Instead of this direction, it would be the larger one.
Perfect.
But I do appreciate the adjustments that were made on this. This is so great, further into the right direction. But I'm trying to figure out in this 6 years, am I reading this correctly to think that we're at a $23 million deficit for this 6-year like these 6 years at the end of it?
I would need to compute that, but because it's about, like you said, it's about 3 million, but then you're going to have 3 million increase. And
Well, you're about $1 million this year,
it'd be about-
914,000.
yeah, so it'd be about 6.
3 million the next year.
And you're up.
It's year 3 that it jumps to negative 7.6 because that number, that ending cash balance has to be
Has to be 10%.
relative to 10%
Yes.
of the expenditures. So that gets us to 7.6.
I do want to add one point of clarification. When we say a deficit, you're speaking of a deficit relative to the council policy of 10%.
Right.
You know, oftentimes when you hear of the state or the federal government, or even us sometimes talk about a deficit or a surplus, it's revenue minus expense. Are you positive, negative?
Right.
And so I do want that point of clarification that we're talking about relative to the 10% requirement of the reserves.
Yeah, we don't get into negative money until year 4, basically, or, yeah.
Year
4.
Year 4,
28,
yes.
29.
Would be when, if we did nothing.
If everything stayed the same,
Yes.
which we don't anticipate, but if it all stayed the same. So I just want to make sure that I'm reading that.
I think you're very close.
Okay.
If not accurate.
If you could add that
perfect.
line, then
Yeah.
I wouldn't have to
You wouldn't have
guess,
to do it,
and we'd
yes.
all look smarter. Okay. I think that's my only questions.
All right,
for
good,
now.
good questions. I think you answered her question the way I was going to ask the question, but when we were looking at the revenues on the graph in the month of December, it was showing that we were way off the mark. But then we lowered our assumptions, and it's looking pretty good on the next graph there. But what you answered is you were retroactive.
I went retroactive.
So
for
it
the
wasn't
entire
we
year.
were just positive just because we changed our assumption and it made it look really, really good.
No, that is what,
So I think that's the way you answered the question. I mean,
we did change the assumption that made it look better.
well, we changed the assumption, but it still didn't, December would have looked worse.
Oh, yes,
potentially.
Can you-
yes.
If
Shar,
we
can you
didn't
go
change the assumption,
back a few
December would have
slides?
looked worse.
True.
I just want to articulate what I think the question is.
Okay.
One more, sure.
But
This one.
December would have been worse, correct?
It would have been even worse had council not updated the projection.
Correct.
This is a lot better. We're basically off by about 2.4 million in our revenues, but that's also timing is what I
There's a
hear
lot
you
of timing
saying.
in that.
Okay, but we're getting a lot closer.
I know in previous conversations with Councilmember Adet over the years, I think she asked me at one point, why do you focus so much on taxes? And I think the workshop on February 3rd talked a lot about why we focus on taxes. It's because it's the one we have the least discretion over. It's a byproduct of what's happening in the economy, happening with the state or with the county with property taxes. There's a variety of factors there that we don't have a lot of control over the actual revenue mechanism, but it funds almost all of the general fund discretionary items that council wishes to provide services to the community on, such as police and fire and parks and things of that nature. And so the taxes are highly important to those funding streams.
All right. You may have explained it earlier, but maybe I missed it. The other taxes, that's a big chunk right there. What is the other taxes?
So the other taxes consists of 3 or 4 primary things. One is franchise taxes. That's the one that's actually tracking behind. And that's mostly, because we receive a large amount of it in June, actually, from PG&E as one of the franchise taxpayers. I also am noticing a decrease in the cable franchise fees that are being paid. But the other taxes, business license tax is the largest one. It's trending right at or a little above the updated forecast. And the last one, hold on real quick, sorry, my memory's escaping me,
Property.
is real property transfer tax, which is trending right on forecast.
And do you forecast this is just a seasonal thing where that segment will get better in
It certainly
months?
will get better by the end of the year because we'll collect the one from PG&E. But I will say there seems to be a softening that I'm trying to track down, get to the bottom of what's happening. It's not a large revenue, but on the cable franchise fee side, there seems to be a softening of that revenue.
Good. Councilor Resner, you were up, so your questions?
This may be really silly and really juvenile, but if in a staff report, we could have a picture maybe that looked similar to this or simply an over/under, Some of us, I noticed as I was walking by, are doing our like chicken scratch sort of thing, like 2 plus, 4 plus, 6 plus to get to our number. So anytime that you could make that, like a fourth grader was trying to read it, that would be really helpful for those
Do
of us.
you have a specific example? Sorry.
I mean, I was looking in overview when we were talking about revenues, and in the very beginning, it said general revenue as of December 31st, yada, 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 right? But anytime, then we start going through all of these, we're over, we're under, we're over, we're under. Anytime that you could give us a nice picture, like you
Oh,
have done
a
up here, a
visual.
little
Okay.
chart,
A
some sort
chart,
of
and
visual. I'm
no
not
pies,
really
no
picky
bars.
about what that is, but I do
Chart.
think that that's helpful for some people to understand.
Not as a set, I like it in the way that it used to be, the 3 different ways that it goes. But in the staff report, it is helpful to see a chart, because some of us, word problems versus charts versus
Yeah,
whatever.
that's
But
all.
pies and bar graphs.
I really appreciate all of the changes that you have made here. So thank you.
No problem.
All right.
Do we need to make a motion to?
No, I think
Do you
this
have
was
any-
information only.
No, there's a budget resolution.
There's a
Oh,
big
I see,
one.
okay. Oh,
There's a
that's
big
right,
one.
accept
I'll
the
make a
CS,
motion
okay.
to accept the City of Reading's fiscal year 2025, 2026 mid-year budget report and adopt the resolution.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we will go to, we'll go to the Circle 6, 9.1A. So consider approval of consulting and professional services agreement with Circle 6 Consulting for the city of Reading, so. We might do a presentation first and then see if there's any comments after that, so.
I'm just waiting for it to load up. Okay.
Oh. Did they already do it?
I didn't see.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is William Tarbo. I'm the city manager for the city of Reading. I'm pleased to present for you this evening. Do all 3. This is the consulting and professional services agreement with Circle 6, item 9.1A. This is a rapid efficiency and cost reduction engagement. This has been part of the plan to come in and will be part of the plan to address what we had previously just listened to moving forward. At this point, I'll hand it over to the Assistant City Manager, Michael Webb, who will walk us through.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Assistant City Manager Michael Webb here. So what I have this evening for you is a brief presentation, and we'll run through what an efficiency study is entitled to cover, what likely outcomes may be. We'll touch on some of the why. We will touch on costs. And then, of course, City Manager Tarbo and myself will be available for any questions that council may have. So first, I'm going to touch on probably a question that a number of us have is, why would we conduct an efficiency study? And a few things that I should note is obviously, as Director Robinette just kind of laid out in the previous presentation, there are some financial pressures that the city is currently experiencing. And that's not uncommon. We're seeing a number of cities and local governments throughout the state dealing with the same issues right now. Another good reason is we want to look at this from a citywide perspective, really from top to bottom, from side to side, and make sure that there are no rocks that are unturned, for lack of a better term. We would prefer to be proactive as opposed to reactive, striving to be data-driven, always interested in continuous improvement. The goal would be able to respond strategically and of course, to protect essential services, amongst a number of things. But those are a number of the highlights that I'll mention here. You might be asking, how does an efficiency study support data-driven decisions? Well, going through this process, we intend to work with our consultant to establish clear baseline of costs, look at staffing, workflows, and service levels. We're looking to identify any inefficiencies, or probably a better description of that would be duplication of efforts, to make sure that staff are working as efficient as possible and not bumping into each other with duplicative processes. Identify any antiquated systems, manual processes or things that may have been hanging around from a number of years ago. I might add, just as a side note, each of you are aware that my tenure with the city's slightly around 2.5 years. I was very much floored when I started in November of 2023 that I was signing paper timesheets. And so I personally believe that there are a number of antiquated systems or processes that will likely be identified and potentially be ripe for value add to the city. We're also anticipating visibility and operational, or improving visibility and turning it into operational risks, looking to remove bottlenecks, resource gaps, provide strategic data to prioritize funding, staffing, and core services, and ensure that they're in alignment with council priority and community desires. A key thing here with these studies, both with our proposal and our recommended consultant, as well as my experience with these efforts during my time at Caltrans, is the identification of performance metrics, right? How do we make sure that we're moving the needle, right? How do we measure it? How do we track it to make sure that we're getting the value that we thought we would get? And that will be part of this process. And then ultimately, of course, it strengthens resilience by helping the city prepare for revenue pressure and make targeted decisions during economic downturns. What we can expect. There's 4 main areas that, working with our Circle 6 team, I anticipate us jumping through. Right out of the gate, we're going to be gearing up for a rapid assessment. This will roughly be a 1-month endeavor. It's going to be a combination of the consultant having staff here, boots on the ground for lack of a better term, as well as a small team that's been identified within the city consisting of myself and a few other key staff to support the consultant in their meetings with teams, going out and seeing facilities, reviewing data, and looking at documents. Really, I look at the first 4 weeks or so as information gathering and just kind of wrapping our arms around what do we have. Not long after that, we anticipate implementing any quick wins that the consultant and the city team can identify that ultimately get approval from the executive sponsor, Mr. William Tarboe, and we would look to implement those quick wins as soon as possible. Shortly thereafter that, we'd be looking at the opportunity development stage, which would be the 3rd stage. This is us working with the consultant to really develop a roadmap on, after we've implemented the quick wins, what else is out there, how do we get there, what that time frame looks like, and really putting, for lack of a better term, a roadmap together for us to get there. Because we recognize that not everything may be able to be achieved immediately. And then last but not least of the 4 main areas, there would be execution and governance. This would be kind of in the 3 to 4 month range after inception. And this would ensure that our improvements are implemented and sustained. The consultant does have a number of deliverables. We expect, and they've committed to, delivering a high-level diagnostic summary with key findings and root causes. I'd say, again, in my experience in dealing with Lean Six Sigma analyses at Caltrans, the root cause analysis is very critical here to make sure that we've identified the appropriate issue when we identify a barrier or a process that could benefit from improvement. They're also going to deliver a prioritized list of savings and efficiency opportunities. Again, they're going to help us define success criteria. So these would be performance metrics that we could use to track and make sure that we're actually getting the bang for the buck that we anticipated getting. And then we would work with them as well to develop a dashboard, something that would be easily reportable, something that could be looked at, and maybe within a glance on one sheet of paper, just ensure that we're hitting the mark. And I should have mentioned to feel free to ask questions as I go through this, so I apologize, and please feel free to interrupt if you have any. And of course, City Manager Tarboe and I'd be happy to take any at the end as well. So another question that some of you may be asking yourselves is why Circle 6 Consulting? Well, there are a number of reasons, and I believe the staff report outlines a number of the justifications, but really at the end of the day, they do have a unique qualification. When we look at the organizations, companies, smaller local municipal governments, somewhat similar to ourselves, as well as larger federal governments, they have done this type of efficiency study for a number of agencies. I've also spent a couple hours or so speaking with the main staff, Nathan Sprague, over the phone and walking through the process with him. He seems to be well informed and engaged over the Lean Six Sigma principles, as well as what the ultimate goal is, which again is to find the most value add for what we have, remove barriers, to really empower staff to do the real work that sometimes is being deprioritized in order to take on activities that may not be as efficient with their time. So again, Circle Six, they have a proven public sector experience. They've worked with the cities of Benicia, Concord, Department of the Veterans Affairs, Navy, the FDA, and the Army, just to name a few, as well as a number of private organizations throughout the country. They have a successful track record of identifying common government inefficiencies, but not only that, to help identify solutions and help develop a plan to get there and implement the fixes, for lack of a better term. They have the proven results. They have a highly experienced team. Multiple staff have over 20 years of experience in this arena, and they seem well qualified for the services. And then another noteworthy achievement or accreditation, if you will, is they are a GSA contractor, so that's a government services analyst contractor, so that means that they have all the proper accreditations to do this, which is a big thing in a number of these worlds, working with the large federal agencies. So I have a smidge of an off-topic question here before I show council their favorite type of chart, which is a pie chart. And I'm curious what type of pie is council's favorite, so I can maybe pitch that that's what I'm showing here this evening. Apple, pumpkin, cherry. Okay, so what I have here is a cherry pie chart for Council Member Resner. Apologies for that. But what I have here is a slide to cover the fiscal, essentially the costs of this. So we have a proposal from Circle Six for $300,000, and that includes everything that I outlined on the third slide, if you recall. We've worked with Director Robinette and his team to break up those costs as we most see fit, which is really based on the size of each department's budget. And so what you'll see both in the pie chart, the cherry pie chart, I should say, over on the right, as well as in the text on the left, you'll see that the enterprise funds are funding roughly 2/3 of it at roughly about $202,000. So that would be your electric utility as well as your water, wastewater, solid waste, and storm drain utilities. All of those funds for the $202,000 are budget adds. They are from the enterprise funds reserves, and they would be added into the budget. And they all have adequate reserves to fund their respective share. The $65,000 you see in the green wedge up on the right, this consists of what I would call the true blue general fund departments. It's roughly 22%. Each of those departments that are funded there have found savings dollar for dollar within their individual department, with exception, if I recall correctly, of the Animal Control Department, which does not have any savings or reserves, so they do have a new $640 add to the budget, if I recall correctly, and Director Robinette can correct me if I'm...
What do you have against animals?
I have a four-legged critter at home that is a family member, so... then you'll see there's a very small orange sliver there. That represents the special funding, which again, these departments do not have reserves. This would be your parking, your library. There's about a $2,000 ask there. So those are new budget allocations for them as well. And then the last but not least is the dark blue wedge, which represents about $31,000 or 10%. These are your internal service funds. So these would be like fleet, like we discussed a few moments ago, your building maintenance, your records, your risk, your GIS, your IT, and a whole slew of other departments. Those departments do have their own reserves, and so the $31,000 there would be coming from each respective department's reserves. However, in the spirit of being as transparent as possible, those reserves are a combination of enterprise funds that contribute to those departments, as well as general funds that contribute to those departments. And for council just to wrap their arms around what percentage of those reserves are general funded versus funded by the enterprise funds, we're roughly looking at an average of about 40% being funded by the general fund and the other 60% being funded by the enterprise funds. But please note, those are funds that are already budgeted and included in there, so they're not new budget adds. I'm just simply stating where those reserves came from. And with that, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions that any of you have.
All right, I don't see any public comment. Councilmember Resner, you're up.
First and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for that presentation. Almost every single one of my questions that I had either received from the community or that I had jotted down, you answered in this presentation. So thank you for being so thorough. The only question that I don't think that I missed this topic, and I'm assuming that maybe slide number 3 or slide number 4 is the answer that we would get to. But is there a reason that we didn't go out to RFP?
So that is a great question. And first, thank you for the comments. In reality, the team put this together and I was able to be the talking head. So
All
there's
right,
many
kudos
staff
to the
on it.
entire team.
I
This
will
is
let them
very
know.
helpful.
So yes, great question. Why are we not putting this out to bid? Well, I think as Director Robinette laid out in the previous presentation, obviously we have financial pressures that are on us now. And so obviously time is of the essence. And I think that that is a very critical element here that we need to acknowledge and move forward with. I would also state that really when we look at the sections of Reading Municipal Code that govern purchases, Section 420.080 bidding does, under item 6, if I recall, give the city manager authority to sole source activities such as this, as long as it is not a public works project. And so technically, this activity does fall within the city manager's
Purview.
authority or purview, thank you, to move forward with it. However, given the dollar amount, when we jump into Section 420.120, it is over the $200,000 limit. Now, I'm not, by sharing that, I'm not insinuating that City Manager Will, Tarbo, or myself would ever move forward with a contract that was less than $200,000 to avoid coming to council. I'm just simply pointing out that Reading Municipal Code currently allows the city manager to move forward with a sole source agreement as long as it is not a public works project and that best value to the city. And through our analysis, this does provide the best value to the city. We've reviewed the proposal and we believe it is imperative that we move forward now.
Last question. You feel strongly about this amount of money that we will be able to, that ROI is going to be substantial on the other side? I think that's the other thing the community really wants to know.
Yeah, we anticipate getting a strong ROI, and we're looking forward to doing that. I think the continuous improvement portion of it is very valuable, right? We, as stewards of public resources, we need to always be in continuous improvement mode, always looking for that, leveraging technology. As new processes become available, we need to leverage them. And a lot of times, in my experience, things change over time. And what I've seen historically is individual divisions or departments are constantly having work and new deliverables put on them, but very oftentimes no work or deliverables are taken off of them. And so over time, departments grow. Going through this process will help us identify, are departments really doing what they need to do? Or are they doing things maybe that other departments should do that may be more efficient in doing that? Or maybe we don't even need to do that anymore and we can find ways to remove work from departments and staff can be more more useful with their time for some of the things that actually matter and move the needle. That's been my experience with this, again, during my time at Caltrans.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Audette?
I just wanted to also comment that I'm really grateful that it's cost neutral and that we spread out the cost to all the departments, since it's going to be impacting all of the departments for all of the budget discussions that we've had. I appreciate that approach to this, sharing the cost around the city. I would also just say that part of the process of hiring our city manager was talking about these types of efficiencies and growing into, I think it's one of the tenets of the city is that we are a 21st century, that we're actually trying to stay ahead of things and to be as efficient as possible. So I appreciate the budget neutralness of this. And in all the research that I've done, I'm very much looking forward to what they do. And I think even giving updates, will it come back with some updates so the public can kind of get an idea of what's the best highlights of what's happening?
Absolutely. I plan on coming back for regular updates. Obviously, executive sponsor Tarbo will be involved, as well as the directorship. And I expect to be back here multiple times throughout the process, updating council. And I should clarify, too, that worked pretty extensively with Director Robinette and his team on spreading the costs out appropriately. So they were intimately involved in that as well. So kudos to them.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Just one question? That's it? I'm just kidding. So, yeah, I know.
It is true. When you do it right.
Councilmember Dinuka?
In medical field, this continuous work performance with an external authority or external group reviewing the process is extremely commonplace. And I have been advocating for something like this, that every few years we should be doing this. So I'm all for it. My just extra comment was about the finance committee appointments. I think we should just as a reminder that we should go ahead and execute that part also, which was approved by the city council earlier. And they should work together, not contradictory, but complementary.
Absolutely. It's in process, and we intend to marry the two up and make sure that they.
Okay, but I the public has asked me several questions about that, and it would be prudent for us to just finalize those appointments.
Okay, Councilor Munns?
I think it was important for me. I met with Mr. Tarbo this morning, and without solicitation, because he's worked with them before, he said he's not friends with these people. They just do good work, and I like that. I was impressed that we're not hiring them because he's buddy with them. We're hiring them because they do the work and they do it right. So I think that was important for people to know.
Okay, Councilor Resident?
My apologies for being muted. One last thing that I thought of is that we're authorizing the city manager, but Assistant City Manager Webb, are you going to be project manager, I'm assuming?
Yeah,
Well,
so.
we could call it whatever title you want to call it, but.
Yeah, so thank you. Good question there. Yeah, City Manager Tarbo has asked me to project manage this effort, and so I've accepted that and will be involved through the duration. And yes, you are correct. So the action before you this evening is to approve the sole source consulting and professional agreement per Ready Municipal Code sections 420-080-A6 and 420-120-L8. I'm not going to read the whole thing off to all three of you. And then I'll also authorize the city manager or designee to execute the agreement, and then adopt the requisite, can't even speak this evening, a resolution approving the new budget, so.
I'll make a motion that we do items 1 through 3.
Second on that?
Second.
Okay. My only comments would be, I'm excited for this, just to see how the efficiencies can not only shore up our finances, bring the reserves back to a healthier balance, but really excited at the opportunities to see what kind of money it can create maybe in surplus for the future. As you know, we're not immune to the struggles that we have as a city, such as the $10 million gap that we have every year towards paving, the infrastructure we have with our own city buildings, the sports parks, the aquatic center. There's just a lot to do, and the struggle over the past year has just been a little tough and challenging to figure out how are we ever going to tackle that stuff when our revenue is shrinking and we have deficits. And so I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, I'm excited for the results, and maybe this will lay the groundwork for us to be able to start tackling some very, very important things that are ahead of us, so that's it. We did have a first and a second, so without any other comment, we'll vote. All in
Already
favor?
voted.
Aye.
Aye.
We're just
Aye.
waiting on you.
We're way ahead of you.
Yeah, we all voted.
Well, you could have changed your mind if I gave a horrible comment there, so I guess you jumped ahead, so.
Mr. Mayor, if I can ask one closing question.
Yes.
Councilmember Audette, is cherry pie okay, or do we need to find a different
No,
flavor?
no cherry pie.
Okay.
Apple crumble, yeah, pumpkin.
So apple pie is okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
She does the pie chart.
It's not in the budget, just like a piece, a slice, just slices.
what's
Can't
next?
afford the whole thing.
Are we prepared to bring back our item from our consent, which was now going to be 9.9? Are we prepared to talk about that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do have a suggestion, but I want to make sure that I understand the concern correctly first. I believe the concern is essentially that because a copy of the grant application was not included as part of the agenda item, the council is not fully aware as to what restrictions there would be on the expenditure of the funds because the proposed uses within the application would likely become part of the requirements of the final grant agreement. If that is the concern, I haven't had a chance to talk to the chief. I do agree it would be a better record for the item actually to come back with the grant application in front of you. There does not appear to be any time limitation other than council policy, so there would be enough time to accommodate
It's
that.
already been submitted. We're just ratifying it.
Correct.
So it would probably be better if when there is a grant application that we see it before it actually gets submitted. So that's number one. Number two, for this, I don't have any issue. Here's what I'm trying to avoid. I'm trying to avoid that the council says, ratifies this staff report, and then our city manager doesn't have the option over that budget, especially since we're dealing with, we just paid to have somebody look at all of our budgets and everything.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that the city manager has the final approval, and it's not the city council because we approved the staff report as written.
Yeah, I can speak to both of those. So as to the first one, your policy does say that for any grants above, I believe it's $70,000, the council should weigh in first before the application is submitted. However, the policy as written recognizes there may be situations where there's insufficient time to bring an application to council. Usually that occurs when the grant is not something the department becomes aware of until right before the closing of the grant period. And it does allow for the grant applications to be submitted without prior council approval, subject to coming back within the first meeting.
Yes.
As to your second point, given the language as written, I don't actually see that as concerning any of the budgetary requirements. You'd have the ability to go ahead and appropriate the grant funds, the city manager would have the ability to go ahead and administratively appropriate the grant funds for any appropriate purposes. You would still be confined by what the state approved. in
Yes, I have
terms of
no
the uses.
problem. I've read
Yes.
I've read many of these grant applications. It'll have maybe like 3 or 4 buckets of things that you could possibly do. And of course, I want the chief to weigh in on what they would like to use that money for. Absolutely. I just want to make sure that it's not that it's the council's wish that it's this, that the city manager is the arbiter of, is that where he wants to place
Yes.
it? I want all,
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that whatever needs to be in the language, if they are going to ratify something when it comes back, then there should be something in the language that says that the city manager is the final say on
Yeah.
where that money goes and which bucket.
And I believe that is the intent of the item as written. I think
Okay.
it's sufficient that you have articulated that, and that is the understanding of the council at the time that you are voting.
Okay, great. So we can pass it as it is? But with my very long, lengthy request and
It's
desire?
now on the record, and it may be
Great, perfect.
incorporated into the
Okay,
minutes.
I will make a motion to approve as recommended.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? I'm ahead of you.
Aye.
Aye.
Or it's a race.
I know. All right, very good. So we're moving on to Public Works, 9.11C, consider City of Reading Public Works Downtown Parking Division financial update.
Quickly.
And adopt resolution amending the City of Reading traffic control map.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Good evening again, Michael Webb, Interim Assistant City Manager. This evening, I will be presenting a financial update on the downtown traffic control plan, as well as touching on a few recommended changes that I'm recommending for your approval this evening. And similar to the previous presentation, I'd be happy to take questions as I go along, as well as at the duration of the presentation. So with that this evening, we do have 15 slides, so I apologize for that, but I am going to try and run through them as quickly as possible. We have three or Slides 3 to 5 are on history, goals, and
Please.
and we're going to move on. All right, so a little bit of history on the parking program here. As all of you know, we've had a parking program in downtown since 1947. We've historically shown flexibility, the city that is, by waiving parking for a majority of community traditions and events, similar to the downtown pancake breakfast or other things. And you can see a number of the old newspaper articles from over the years that my team has collected. So it's been here for a while, and I just figured I'd make sure council was aware of it. This is not something new. You might like that back in 1947, it was a nickel an hour. 70s, it went to 10 cents and 20 cents in the 80s. Just interesting facts. Quick background on just the downtown redevelopment, because that is closely tied to the parking. 2018, the existing parking garage and meters were at the end of the useful life. We adopted updates to the downtown specific plan. 2019, we received a $20 million grant for the downtown redevelopment. 2020, the garage went away. We established parking mitigation fund. We leased alternative parking lots, and we began development of the downtown Reading parking strategy. 2021, we did extensive outreach. Got our second $20 million grant, plus an additional $5 million grant for housing, trails, and new parking. 2022, we completed construction of downtown streets and circulation. Shortly thereafter, deployed new parking systems. And then we did have a slight delay. The public market downtown did take a little bit longer than originally anticipated to get to completion. And that's why you see the slight gap there from 2023 to 2025. And then most recently, as council's aware, we have the downtown entertainment zone and we had the November opening of the public market. I asked staff to lay all that out because I think it is very important for council and the community to recognize and remember that the downtown parking program really is a integral part of a bigger plan to really redevelop and vitalize downtown. And we really have done a lot as a city in the last 7 or 8 years, and it's very commendable what some of our four folks and staff have done, as well as the local businesses downtown. It's always good to touch on the goals for the downtown parking because because I think oftentimes things can get misconstrued and words really matter here. Really at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're using the time as efficiently as possible and we're striving to get turnover. Businesses have told us time and time again that they need turnover and they need folks to be able to get there, whatever mode they choose, but they cannot stay there all day to prevent someone else from coming in. We've also had it be a goal of the downtown parking program that we are striving to have it be self-sustaining or cost neutral, which I'll let the cat out of the bag a little bit. I have positive news to share with the 5 of you in a few slides. But that is a core goal of the downtown parking program. And then we're really looking for the best service, which we've defined as an occupancy rate of 85% on average. And what that means is that if there were 100 stalls downtown at any given time, 85 would be occupied and 15 would be available. So in other words, there would always be a space for someone that is looking for one. A few challenges there. We've got 600 plus workers, 2,000 visitors, 200 residents. There's a lot of folks down there for different reasons. We've implemented a number of solutions, incentivizing employees to use off-street lots. We've got free parking zones. We've promoted rideshare, drop-off, bicycle transit, so other modes to get downtown. We've worked with developers on the downtown public parking garage. We've also looked, and you'll see in a few slides, to reduce the administrative costs of the program as well. What we have here, a few things, so I'll run through these quickly. The aerial photograph that you see on the left-hand side with the Slimer green, if you will, that really shows hot spots of where we're still seeing, I would say, compliance issues. And so these are the areas where, working with Chief Barner and his staff, we're seeing the highest number of folks that are parking but not complying. And so we can use this information to make sure that we have the proper signage, we're providing proper education, but we also use it to make sure that the parking program is operating in its most optimum capacity possible. The table that you see on the top right of your screen provides a breakdown for the last 3 years of what type of mechanism folks are using to comply. Are they paying at the meter? Have they downloaded the app and are they using it? Or are they using the text option? Or have they secured a permit? Interestingly, over the last 3 years, we've seen about a 10 or 11% drop in the number of people using the meter, and we've seen a 3% increase in the app, but most notably, we've seen a 7% increase in the text usage. So we are seeing people kind of move away from the meter slowly and transition to using these, my cell phone. And that's a trend that we're continuing to monitor. And obviously, if meter use continues to decline, that could come with benefits to the program because then we would no longer have to own, operate, and maintain meters. Right below that, we have a chart that shows just kind of the usage by day of the week. Should come to no surprise. Friday's the busiest day. Monday, we tend to see the least amount of folks. Jumping to the bottom slide, we've also broken that down by hour, so you can kind of see the trend. But I do want to point out that 8 o'clock hour is grossly skewed because that includes folks that are parking for 8 to 10 hours. So that if you were to go there and park for the, in the 10-hour parking area, you get marked as an 8 a.m. person. So really the peak is during the lunchtime when we remove those numbers. So what I have here is a bar chart that talks about our expenses. So I'm going to take a second and kind of run through this because I think the expenses and revenue and then just the general net position are very important for council to be apprised of. We've broken each chart into 3 main categories or food groups, if you will, blue being personnel, orange being O&M, and green being our meter debt service. So you can see from the previous budget year, 24-25, we had about a $500,000 budget and it was really spread out pretty evenly in thirds between personnel, O&M, and debt for the parking meters. And you can see that our 25-26 budget really kind of mimics that as well. And going into 26-27, again, it does. But you'll notice in 27-28, you'll see the yellow cross-hatched area. And really what's happening there is if our revenues continue to move or continue to come in at the rate that we're going to discuss in the next slide, we will have paid off our meter debt service I don't know, maybe halfway through the 27-28 fiscal year, and we'll be able to start paying back the other internal loans that the parking program has had to take from other city departments. And that's a very key point for the parking program in general. And we would anticipate that we would be able to continue to do that. And that is a very good position to be in. So moving over to, revenues, on the similar side, you'll see that last year our revenues were around $500,000. However, I want to point out that a big chunk of our revenue is that purple hatched area, where that is we're taking on loans from other departments to make sure that we have the revenue to cover our expenses. And if you recall from the previous slide, I was showing the yellow area with the hatches in a further year out. That is when we are able to start paying those advances back. So you see here that in the last year, we had to take out roughly about $200,000 of internal loans. But this current year, we're only budgeting for around $40,000 worth of loans because our revenue is increasing significantly, predominantly due to downtown market opening up and other businesses as well. And then you'll see that in 26-27, our revenue doesn't include any fund transfer. So again, we're getting to the point to where the parking program is approaching that cost neutrality. It's paid for the debt for the equipment, we're paying back our internal loans, and we're getting to the point where we can start putting money away for future needs that the parking program may have, as well as making improvements to the parking area downtown in general, updating light standards, signage, or other things within our parking lots. Here we have a few graphs and charts. So the one on the left shows both our revenues and monthly expenses with a red vertical line there that really shows what's been happening since the public market has opened. And you can easily see that the blue line has gone up considerably since public market opening. And again, blue line is our revenue, with dashed lines being forecasted and solid lines being actual. And you can also see that our monthly expenses, again, that's the yellow line with solid being actual and dashed being forecasted. You can see that our expenses are coming down. And that is really attestable to the team within Public Works, the Finance Department, as well as Chief Barner and his team looking for ways to more efficiently process citations, more efficiently run the route, and get information, and really at the end of the day, spend less time on the parking program in general. So, right, we're trying to control costs as much as possible, but take advantage of the businesses opening up down there and encourage folks to comply. The table, the bar chart over on the far right, this is really our revenue versus expense outlook. So that table there, or bar graph, if you will, is a combination of the previous two charts that we saw that were expenses and revenues. This is combining them into one. And again, you can see that trend where last year, 24-25, we were having to essentially take on debt. We had to take on a little bit of debt in this current year, but next year we anticipate being cost neutral and paying off our debt, and then being able to 27, 28, and into the future, pay back the internal loans that the parking program has taken on. Again, a good trend or position to be in. Now I'm gonna pause for a second because there's a lot of information there regarding the parking program financials before I jump into modifications that I'm gonna recommend to this body this evening to make to the parking program as a whole. Or I'd be happy to continue. Your council's prerogative. All right, we're marching on, loud and clear. All right, so the first recommendation I have to changes downtown, and this is very much in alignment with what I've shared with you each time I've presented on this, is that as development occurs downtown in the parking program, we will adjust and make accommodations to support development. And what we are proposing here today is to eliminate paid parking on West Street as well as Yuba Street west of Court Street. And you can see that on the figure in front of you. So again, that would remove paid parking requirements along those locations, and those would be free parking areas now. And then we would take the 4 parking meters that are out there and we would relocate them within the program to put them at spots that would save someone, maybe a couple hundred feet of walking. Or if we don't need to do that, we would keep them as backup inventory, but we would redeploy those as necessary. And we believe that this makes sense with the courthouse relocation and just looking at the metrics. What we have here is looking at, again, the downtown parking program, specifically that downtown area. So recently, we've had Assembly Bill 413, which amended the California Vehicle Code, and it's really been known as the daylighting legislation. And what it is doing is it is requiring us to not have parking stalls right at the corner of an intersection. And if you think about it from a traffic engineering or a safety or an operations perspective, that makes a whole lot of sense, because as vehicles are making turns there, you need to have enough sight distance to see. That's a spot where we have, the vulnerable user group and the bicycles, peds, or walking, to make sure that, people can see one another. So as a result of that, I'm recommending that we modify our downtown parking program and remove 29 spots, because those are affected by the Assembly Bill. However, I would like to convert 8 of the 29 to commercial loading zones, which are in compliance with Assembly Bill 413. And I should note to council that we have received constant feedback from businesses downtown that commercial loading zones are strongly desired for obvious reasons. So I anticipate this to be well received, and it has been based on the feedback that my staff has taken and gone out and met with businesses. And then last but not least here, I'm recommending that we add some red curb locations along Yana Avenue as well as Lake Boulevard. These are generally related to traffic engineering issues as well. Again, safety, sight distance, operations. We want to make sure that vehicles aren't parking in an area where they put the motorists or users of the facility in an unsafe situation. So in general, I'm recommending this evening that council accept the department's downtown parking program financial update. And then I'm also recommending adoption of a resolution amending the City of Reading traffic control map as shown on exhibits A, B, and C and summarized below, modifying the 8 on-street parking spaces impacted by the state daylighting requirements, converting them to commercial loading and short-term commercial spaces, and authorizing yellow curb markings shown on Exhibit A. Modifying red curb, no parking designations along the frontage of 1155 Lake Boulevard, and to reflect full frontage as shown on Exhibit B, and extending the existing red curb on Yana Avenue at Shasta Meadows Elementary School crosswalk by approximately 20 feet on the north side of the crossing to approve sight distance, pedestrian safety, as shown on Exhibit C. And then last but not least, find that this action is exempt from environmental review under CEQA, the common sense exemption. So with that, apologize, I was attempting to go quick. I'm available for any questions that council may have.
Just a real quick question. What's the commercial loading zone? Or what does that mean?
It means that if I owned a restaurant, that a delivery truck could temporarily park there while they loaded or unloaded, perishable goods or deliveries to that business. So typically, it's like a 15 to 30-minute park, load, unload, and then move.
So a customer parking to run inside an office real quick and coming right out could still be cited.
He
Is
saw
that?
you put the one right in front of his office, that's why he's asking.
Unfortunately, no, Mr. Mayor.
He should recuse.
Is there one there? Yes, the red curb.
No, not a red curb,
Oh, okay.
commercial loading.
Oh,
It was yellow.
there's no commercial loading over there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Take a vote.
Motion to approve. Motion to accept
Okay.
and approve the plan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Should have just gone right to the vote, Michael. We love you, though.
I think you're just getting tired, so.
It is past
Yes, I know.
Jack's bedtime.
All
8
right, so
o'clock. We're just getting started.
we're gonna speed right along. So to our city attorney, 9.14A, consider approval of contract with Burke Williams and Sorensen LLP to provide legal services as an interim city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the council is aware, back in January, I gave the council notice that I would be leaving employment with the city of Reading as I had accepted a position with another agency. I have since signed a contract with the city of Milpitas to be their city attorney. As per council policy, the city promptly contracted with a recruiting firm to conduct a formal recruitment for the replacement to the city attorney. The council has been involved in that process during the closed session. It is underway. However, there will be a gap between when I have left and when a permanent city attorney is able to step in and take over. Because of that, the city is in need of some interim city attorney services. I briefed the council on some of the legal issues that you have in closed session. But in short, given the complexity of the job, the nature of the issues that you have in front of you, I would strongly recommend that you take an experienced city attorney during that interim period. After discussing a few options, Burke Williams Sorensen appeared to be the best fit. They did agree to bring their rates down to $335 an hour for general legal services. There was still a provision for $405 an hour for specialized services, although the intent would be to minimize the utilization of that. And we have discussed some structural options to accomplish that. The firm is offering to have its managing partner of the Marin office as the interim city attorney, with a lot of the work to be done by another partner within that office, Mary Wagner. Both have extensive experience in municipal law, have dealt with many challenges for cities and public agencies in general, and appear to be an excellent fit for this work. I will say your new city manager has also had some experience working with them in the past, and there's some indication that they should be able to have enough of a relationship to be able to hit the ground running, which I would say is really going to be important for this interim assignment. They appear to be the right option. The request is that the council approve the contract, approve the accompanying budget resolution to reflect the expense, and then also to vote to approve Mr. Stock as the interim city attorney effective as of April 5th. My apologies, the second and third of those are in the body of the report, but did not make it into the recommended action section of the staff report. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
No, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Aye.
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 All in favor?
Aye.
All right. You guys are fun. Okay, moving along to, that was great. Council travel reports. Anybody have anything to report? Nothing?
Tanessa was at CalCog.
Do you have something to report?
CalCog CERTA. But I did go to the regional for California League of Cities in Chico, who is coming, I think they're about 8 months from being released from their lawsuit over their homelessness encampment. So they were talking about sort of their transitions and some unique housing options, some builders in the area that are trying some different ideas around density and what their arena needs. So, yeah,
Keep up the good work.
all right.
Thank you. Any suggestions from council members for any potential items in the future? Nothing. We are adjourned. We are going back to closed session, and we will come back to report any action after we are done. Okay. That's good. Yeah.